Shadows of Evershade. The town of Evershade was nestled in a valley that the sun rarely graced, leaving the streets perpetually draped in twilight. As dusk descended, Lena Mallory hurried through the fog-shrouded streets, her footsteps muffled by the dense, creeping mist. The fog was a living thing in Evershade, whispering, prowling, seeping into the very bones of the town. Its tendrils wrapped around the houses, obscuring the sacred symbols carved into the lanterns that burned dimly in the windows. Lena's heart raced, an instinctive urgency driving her home. There, in the shadowy confines of their modest house, she found her brother Tim, staring out the window with eyes that no longer seemed his own. His gaze was empty, haunted by visions that only he could see. When Lena spoke to him, his responses were a fractured litany of fears. Disjointed murmurs about the fog, the nightmares it brought, and the things it whispered in the dark. It was not the first time she had heard such talk. The fog had claimed many minds in Evershade, and its reach was growing. Lena felt a cold dread coil round her heart, but she pushed it aside. She couldn't lose Tim. Not to the fog. She would find a way to bring him back. Her search for answers led her to the town historian, Elias Thatcher. His study was a relic from another age. Dusty, dimly lit, and crowded with books and artifacts that whispered of long-forgotten secrets. The scent of aged paper hung in the air, mingling with the bitter aroma of old herbs. Elias, with his graying hair and piercing eyes, was the keeper of Evershade's past, and the past, it seemed, was the key to understanding the fog. Elias spoke in riddles, weaving tales of a time when Evershade was free from the fog's grasp. He hinted at a dark pact made long ago, a bargain that had cursed the town and its people. The fog, he said, was not just mist but a malevolent force. A shadow that fed on fear and guilt, growing stronger with each soul it consumed. Lena left Elias's study with more questions than answers, but her resolve had solidified. She would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Lena's next stop was the cottage of Mira Donovan, the town's reclusive herbalist, nestled on the outskirts of Evershade. The cottage was a sanctuary from the fog, a place where the air was thick with the scent of dried herbs and flowers, and the fog seemed reluctant to enter. Mira was a woman of the earth, her wisdom rooted in the natural world. She believed that the town's history, its deep connection to the land, held the key to breaking the curse. Mira's eyes, wise and wary, flicked toward the windows as she spoke. She handed Lena a bundle of protective herbs and spoke of the old ways, rituals, and remedies that might hold back the fog's influence. But there was something else in her words, a hint of fear that she couldn't quite hide. The fog, she warned, was more than just an external force. It had seeped into the hearts and minds of Evershade's people, feeding on their darkest secrets. As Lena pondered Mira's words, a newcomer arrived in Evershade. Nathan Cross, a former journalist with a skeptical mind, was drawn to the town by rumors of the fog's supernatural nature. His modern, sharp appearance clashed with Evershade's old-world atmosphere. Initially, Nathan dismissed the fog as a superstition, a local legend blown out of proportion. But that skepticism didn't last. The moment he stepped into the fog, he felt its cold fingers on his mind, probing, searching for a weakness. Nathan's encounter with the fog left him shaken, and he found himself drawn into Lena's quest. Together with Elias, Mira, and a small group of townspeople known as the Watchers, they began to piece together the puzzle of Evershade's dark history. In a hidden basement beneath Elias's study, they pored over ancient journals and maps, the air thick with dust and a growing sense of urgency. Each page they turned revealed more of the town's twisted past. A sacred grove desecrated, a dark entity bound to the land, and a pact that had brought the fog into being. But the fog was not content to let its secrets be unearthed. It grew more aggressive, more sinister. One fateful night, despite Lena's best efforts to keep him safe, Tim wandered into the fog. Panic gripped Lena's heart as she and Nathan gave chase, the cold mist swirling around them, whispering their darkest fears into their ears. The fog was alive, a sentient force that thrived on their terror. It revealed their deepest secrets, their most hidden shames, pushing them to the brink of madness. The fog's assault was relentless. As they stumbled through the streets, Lena saw visions of her own guilt. Memories of mistakes, of failures she had buried deep within her mind. The fog twisted those memories, turning them into grotesque nightmares that clung to her, sapping her will. Nathan fared no better. His cynicism, his detachment, crumbled under the weight of the fog's revelations. The shadows of his past, things he had thought long buried, rose up to confront him. Somehow, they managed to drag Tim back to the safety of their home, but the encounter left them shaken. Tim's condition worsened, his mind slipping further away, consumed by the fog's influence. Lena's determination hardened into a resolve born of desperation. She would not lose her brother. The fog had taken enough. It was time to fight back. Elias, with his vast knowledge of the town's history, unearthed texts and symbols pointing to the malevolent entity at the heart of the fog. This entity, he explained, thrived on the townspeople's fear and guilt, using the fog as a conduit to torment and manipulate them. It was a parasite, feeding on their darkest emotions, growing stronger with each soul it consumed. Its presence could be felt in every shadow, every whisper that drifted through the fog. The final confrontation was inevitable. The group gathered in Elias's study, the room transformed into a fortress of protective charms and potions crafted by Mira's skilled hands. The air was thick with the scent of herbs and incense, a barrier against the fog's encroaching influence. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of what they were about to face pressing down on them. Nathan, ever the journalist, documented their plans, hoping to expose the truth of Evershade to the outside world. But there was an unspoken understanding among them that this might be a one-way journey. The fog had claimed many before them, and it would not give up its hold easily. They ventured into the town's forgotten sewer system, a labyrinth of dark, damp tunnels that reeked of decay. The fog was there, thicker than ever, its tendrils wrapping around them, pulling them deeper into its clutches. The walls seemed to close in around them, and every step was a struggle against the overwhelming sense of dread that permeated the air. The fog attacked their minds, bombarding them with visions and whispers that eroded their sanity. At last, they reached the entity's lair, a chamber deep beneath the town, where the fog was thickest, swirling around grotesque symbols carved into the walls. The air was thick with malevolence, the very atmosphere charged with the entity's dark power. It was a shapeless thing, a shadow in the fog that shifted and twisted, always just out of sight, always there. The entity struck, not with physical force, but with an assault on their minds. It knew their fears, their guilt, and it used those emotions like weapons, driving them to the brink of madness. But Lena stood firm, her love for her brother, and her determination to save Evershade giving her strength. She faced the entity not with anger, but with a will forged in the fires of desperation. She called on the memories of those she loved, the warmth of their presence, using that light to pierce the fog's darkness. As Lena's will clashed with the entity's dark power, The fog began to thin, its grip on the town weakening. The oppressive weight that had hung over Evershade for so long lifted, and with it, the shadows that had haunted the town began to fade. The fog receded, drawing back into the earth, and the entity's hold on the town was broken. But victory came at a cost. Lena found her brother, but Tim was not the same. The fog had taken a part of him, leaving behind a shadow of the boy he once was. The townspeople emerged from their homes, blinking in the light of a sun they hadn't seen in years. Relief mingled with sorrow as they counted the cost of their long nightmare. Nathan wrote his article, a comprehensive account of the horrors they had faced, hoping that it would serve as a warning to others. Evershade began to heal, but the scars left by the fog would never fully fade. Lena, Mira, and Elias remained in the town, their bond forged in the crucible.